Wonderful. Thank you for that point of view. And you know, Professor Bishop really brought up points that I have never considered, and I've been, in this space for a long time. So we're going to move into our final panel of this event, after which we'll have a networking reception outside, and I'm told there will be wine, so that could be fun. And to lead the next discussion, I will first invite the moderator, and she will introduce the panelists. So please welcome Michal Geva. Please give her a warm round of applause. Michal, please join me up here. Michal is the founder and managing partner of Triventures, which is a venture capital firm. Michal, would you be moderating from over there?
I don't know, wherever you tell me, you're the boss.
Oh, no, you're the boss. It's your event.
It's so hard to follow you. You're so passionate and well articulated. At this time, it's amazing.
Thank you. Praise the sun. I'm here to share my knowledge. Thank you. That's very kind of you, but I'm now handing it off to you, Michal. So the stage is yours, and you may invite the panelists.
Thank you. First of all, it's a great honor to be here and to see a room at this late time of the day after 4 days now of CyberWeek full of women and a few men is actually really, heartwarming. When I prepared a little bit to this panel discussion, I went on the internet. I didn't prepare a nice slide like you, but I did. But I did look at some numbers and statistics, not only in the cyber kind of sector, which was talked a lot about in the past couple of hours, but in the high-tech in general. And we're in 2018, and I was still pretty discouraged, I would say. We're getting slowly but surely, but we're definitely not yet there. Out of the 57% of the people working in, out of the high-tech environment in the States, 57% are women, and only 20% of them are in high-tech. Only 5% of the startups in the United States are owned by women, and only 11% are in the venture partner community. And it was amazing to see that even angel investors today in the United States, only 13% of them are women. Silicon Valley was a surprise to me because it was only 11% are directors on boards. And if we think that in Israel the situation is better, it's actually not. Women are still underrepresented in the high-tech sector. Only 12% are women out of the PhDs in engineering, and only 15% of the women are, only 15% are women in the high-tech sector. According to Hila Boehner, who is the founder of a not-for-profit organization called Yazamiyot, which is entrepreneurs, only 3% of the executive positions are held by women in the sector environment. And if we look at entrepreneurship, only 9% are actually female entrepreneurs. I have to say, we at Triventures, we see about 500 different companies a year, and we barely see women entrepreneurs, definitely not enough CEO entrepreneurs. And it's a shame. And even in, there's about 10% in a pre-seed and seed stage of a company, but as they grow, there's much and much less women involved in senior positions. In the next session, I'd like to invite panelists to discuss a little bit how, as an industry, we can think and figure out a way to break the ceiling. Because it's people like you in the room, and it's people like youth people here that I see in the back stages that I think together we can see and generate a change. So I'd like to invite to the panel Lauren Smith. Lauren, are you with us? Lauren just came from the main arena. Congratulations on a very nice talk there. Please, so Lauren is the Policy Counsel of the Future of Privacy Forum, where she focuses on big data and Internet of Things. Prior to working at the FPF, Lauren was a policy advisor in the White House Office of Science and Technology, where she played a core role in the White House Big Data Report, launched the Precision Medicine Initiative, and policy of initiative around intellectual property and regulatory. So thank you very much for joining us. I'd like to call to the stage Shira Shamban. Where are you? Great. Shira is a security researcher and a technical expert with great focus on threat intelligence. Shira spent 13 years at the 8200, and I'm sure everybody by now knows what's the 8200 unit. After her military services, she joined us at Dome 8 Security, where she, Dome 9.
You're used to Team 8 probably. So.
Dome 9, sorry, and now leading the company's security research. You know, it was funny when we kind of chatted a little bit about it. She told me that it's only after she left the Army that she understood that there is an issue and a distinguish between women and men, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in the civil service and in the high tech. But she's going to tell us a little bit about her community efforts, because one of the nice things we'll see, all of the women here are part of different communities of mentoring and generating a tighter ecosystem. I'd like to also invite Reut Menashe. Reut has spent more than 10 years at the cybersecurity and counterintelligence space, leading the technology and analysis team and providing top-tier cyber intelligence security. In her recent position as the CTO of White Hat, she's leading, which is a private security firm. She's taking a major role in the company. And in terms of community, she's also going to tell us a little bit about the Cyber Ladies and among other things that she's doing. And last but not least, where is Natali Tshuva? Natali, the youngest and the promising Natali Tshuva. Natali has over 10 years of experience in offensive and cybersecurity, including research, development, and exploitation. At the age of 19, she already graduated from her computer science first degree and was kidnapped to the 8200, where she spent there several years. After that, Natali joined Celebrite and then NSO, two leading companies in the space of cybersecurity. And actually, I got the chance to communicate and interact quite a bit with Natali, because she is the CEO of a cybersecurity company in the healthcare space called DoomIt. So great to have you all here. So when about a decade ago, I crossed the lines from startups and started the venture fund, and I remember I was sitting in the backyard of my garden, and I had a discussion with my best friend, and she said, you know, Michal, now you have your own business, and you managed to raise a small fund, and you have to promote women. And I said, no. I have to say, I said, listen, I've worked hard, I've built a business, I have most of the time have not been in an audience like that where it's usually women, and rather than, you know, most of us usually go into a room that is full of men. And I've never felt the glass ceiling. And, you know, you should always take the best person to hire whenever you have an opening. We had a debate, and it's amazing what happened to me after a decade. Because today, Triventures team, although my partner is here from California, Peter, but a lot of our group, a big part of our group, partner, CFO, controller, they're all women. And it helped me realize how much bias we have and how much we like people like us. And if we want to talk about, you know, breaking the glass, I'd like to, you know, ask you first, each one of you have been in organizations and rooms and board meeting rooms, etc., that were filled with men, and most probably were the minority. How did it feel? How did it influence, most importantly, your career, if at all? Was it at all an issue? Who wants to start?
Yeah, okay. Hi, hello. Actually, it wasn't an issue because I tried to be myself. And this is the main thing that I say to myself all of the time, just be yourself. And it works. So that's it.
So be yourself. Do you think it promoted any specific skill set or characteristic that you had to push harder, show more, be better than others because you were kind of a minority? Maybe, Lauren, you could share your experience from that.
Yeah, so I started off sort of similar to you. I thought, everything is equal. I don't need to join women's organizations. I don't need to look at my career as being different because I'm female. I can do anything a man can do. I showed up to 1 or 2 conferences and sort of thought, oh, well, these people are a little bit older than me. I won't have to deal with these issues. And that worked for a while. And it wasn't until, so I work in policy, and a lot of policy making is about sort of creating and exerting influence. And it wasn't, I worked at a number of progressive organizations in DC that I felt were very supportive, sort of regardless of gender. But when I got to what for me felt like the pinnacle of my career, when I got to the White House, I sort of expected that trend to continue. And then I realized that it's a very competitive place, a very intense place, a lot of people sort of at the top of their fields. And what I learned was in order to actually get your job done, you needed to figure out how to create power and how to create influence for yourself. And for me, my instinct had always been, figure out where I can be useful, figure out who to staff to help advance their cause. It wasn't about me, it was about, how I can just sort of plug in elsewhere that I could be helpful. And then I realized eventually that I sort of needed to, and it was upsetting me, I learned I needed to create my own ego. I needed to take on some of this confidence that the men around me had and that I often disliked, because that actually helps you get your job done. And I think I'm still in the process of navigating how do I do that while sort of maintaining the humble approach to the world that I would like to have. Interesting.
Shira, Chris talked earlier about what I call the imposer reflex. If you're a man and the job is open and you kind of know more or less the buzzwords, you'll say, yeah, I can apply and I'll be good at it. And talking about a little bit of self-confidence in combination with ego, we're there. Women tend to be more structured. We want to make sure that we hit everything, we know everything, and then we will think if we want to apply. Do you agree to that? Do you see it in your...
Unfortunately, I agree. I see this all the time. I'm always recruiting, and I'm seeing the women who don't submit their CV because, they only have 2 years of experience and not 3 or 4, so they're not submitting. But men, they submit if they just graduated from university, and they know what AWS is, so they're probably cloud experts. And I see this all the time, and I try to encourage the women around me that this is not how it works. And this is actually one of the reasons that I got into all kinds of women's forums, to tell women that you need to learn how to play the game. As you mentioned before, the world is biased. And if we want to succeed, we have to learn how the game is played until the rules will be changed. But until they're changed, we have to play the same way that men play. They don't care exactly about the requirements of the job. They don't care exactly what did their boss ask them to do. And they don't care exactly how many coffee breaks or cigarette breaks did they take today. Because if there is a reason for them to go out with their friend and talk about something over a cup of coffee, and during that cup of coffee they will decide about the next sprint or next quarter's roadmap. This is where real stuff happens. But women, they don't take too many breaks because they're super dedicated, and some of them are women. The women are women, but some of them are mothers, and if they go home at 4 p.m., so they don't think that they deserve breaks, although when the kids go to bed, they open their laptop and keep on working.
And you saw a difference than when you were in the army?
Yes.
How come? Because army is, in Shmona Matayim is actually very, very
I
male
admit
dominant.
that this unit is a bubble, and maybe it's not a real representation of military experience. But in the military, everyone wears the same clothes. Everyone wears uniforms. And what matters is the hierarchy and your rank. If someone who is, I don't know, smarter than me or more talented than me is, I'm his superior, he can say whatever he wants, but I will make the decision. But this is not about me. This is about, I'm his boss and I have my boss, and that's okay, and this is how things work. And in the military, if there is an important discussion, the person who knows the most about this topic is going to come and be presenting. And it doesn't matter if I'm his boss, but he knows better than me, then he will be presenting no matter how important the person who is leading the discussion is. So in the military,
Natali, I know you spend a lot of time in the same unit. Do you feel the same? Was it like that?
Actually, I felt a bit different in the army. As a
Good,
researcher,
now we'll have a
and-
discussion.
yeah. So I did feel some bias in the unit, and often when I got to work with some researcher or a reverse engineer, then they assume that women can't do that, and I'm not. The first assumption is that I don't know what I'm talking about, so you have to prove yourself, and wow, okay, maybe she does know what she's doing. And I felt that. And also when finishing the course, you need to be selected to several teams, and I know for a fact that I wasn't selected to the best team because the manager there said that a female doesn't fit the ecosystem of the team. So it happened. And so I think that the young age and the uniform, as you said, they help. I feel more bias in the industry than in the army, but still I think that the army isn't the perfect place yet. And there's still, I was the only woman in my course, and I was one of 3 women in the unit. So I think the number speaks for themselves, and it still exists. Yeah.
Okay. Reut, you are part of groups that are mentoring and bringing young tech entrepreneurs and ladies together. First of all, would love to hear about that. And second, I'd love to understand if you're addressing in those courses, in those meetups, issues like that are not just how to code and how to code together, but more of the soft thing, how to handle a situation or how to position yourself?
Yeah, okay. So you're talking about leading cyber ladies that Karen just presented at the beginning?
She gave you the stage, She said a few words, but she left you a whole stage to tell us more about it.
And also about BAOT, I will talk about it. It's another initiative. Leading cyber ladies, it's me and Shira as well. We are both and Karen together with this. This is something that is very important to us. It's not only for learning skill of hacking or information security skills, penetration testing, innocent response and threat hunting. It's mainly to be a supportive community for women who wants to talk about whatever they want. If they need help to find a new job, or they need to talk with their new boss or about something, they have questions, they don't know how to behave in some situation. This is why we created this community for women can consult with each other. Maybe Shira can, yeah.
Yes. So a lot of women don't apply for conferences because they don't think they have something important to say, and they don't have enough role models that they see who speak at conferences. So first of all, we talked about going to conferences, not even speaking, just being there and seeing, meeting other people, which conferences should we go, and one time I heard Reut saying she's going to a conference, so I was like, which conference? I want to come too. So we went to Germany together.
Yes.
And we're going to New York next month together. So meeting other women who do these things gives us a lot of motivation. Another important goal for these meetups is to let other women talk. Because a lot of them are just too afraid of getting on the stage. And these meetups are a very warm and welcoming place to make mistakes. And I can tell about my first experience, and I never had a problem with public speaking. And in the military, I used to present a lot and speak to a very large audience. But the first time I came to the meetup, I actually prepared a presentation about the Mirai botnet, and I brought some very interesting information from my friends from Deutsche Telekom who were very badly impacted by this malware. And, I gave my talk, and some people asked questions. And in my experience, it was the worst lecture ever. I felt so embarrassed. It was probably 90% only in my mind, but I was sure that this was a total embarrassment for me, and everyone will remember this forever, and I will never be asked to talk ever again, because now the whole world knows that I'm a very, very bad speaker. So the moment there was a break, I just took my bag and left. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to see anyone. I just left. Yes, so I now understand that this is a lot of this is in my
making
mind.
mistake is okay, and taking a big pill of courage is the other thing.
Yes,
that
so
you're saying.
we want more women to come to these meetups and to
And
help
also
them
to show
take
that
this
there's
pill of
role
courage.
models that people could look at them and could associate themselves and can have later on mentors.
And okay, so fail, but fail with a good audience that likes you
Supportive
and that
audience.
will support you. Yes.
Yes.
So it's great to have this forum. You can say whatever. We can all fail. All is good. Lauren, I have a question for you. We talked a little bit about different sectors, right? I grew up in the medical device and life science. Today we're doing cybersecurity and tech. But in life science, it's interesting to see much more women, both in researchers. Today we see about over 20% of researchers are done in life science by women. We used to have a much more investment groups here in life science. A lot of them were led or were participated by women. We see it less in tech. I know you're coming from the privacy sector, and I know that there is an anomaly there as well. Can you tell us a little bit about it, and maybe we can see what we can learn from those sectors, other sectors that are different and apply to this sector?
Yeah, so I work on privacy technology policy, and we interact with a lot of folks from tech companies, a lot of policymakers, a lot of academics, and certainly have the experience that in the technology area, it is predominantly male. But in the privacy sector, it is actually refreshing that the formal statistics say it's about 50-50 between women and men. And these are folks who are working as chief privacy officers at large corporations, folks who are navigating this space at different tiers, largely as lawyers, but also as technologists. And it's sort of a nice sort of bubble in some sense, in that you go into rooms and they're, in my experience, more likely to be over 50% women.
Why is that? Do you know?
So I tried to look into it to come up with an answer before this conference.
How did it go?
It doesn't seem that there is a clear takeaway. There are a number of theories. So one is that it is a newer field within the past sort of 2 decades, and so some of the previous barriers to entry that may exist in other fields didn't exist, and that women were able to sort of find their way into this field with a certain skill set. Another theory is that perhaps privacy is considered the nursing of technology, and that it requires sort of a different skill set that involves, instead of mandating, sort of doing cooperative efforts, working together to come to the best solutions. There's not sort of clear black and white lines. I think those are controversial perspectives, but may play a role. It may be that folks look to this field and see other women in leadership roles and think of that as an excellent place to look to participate. So I haven't been able to get a good answer, and I think it's something that sort of self-perpetuates itself, as you mentioned, as I've also seen in health policy circles. But it, I think, helps provide an environment where folks can feel more confident entering. I know within my organization, we are mostly female. Sort of all of our policy councils, who are experts in different fields, are female, but our CEO and our head of policy are male. But I think that also goes to a point which I found in a lot of men that I work with in privacy, which is that it's not just incumbent on women to support other women, but also on men to be conscious of the ways in which they can help lift up and help promote women. I've had my bosses, I've said to them, look, I'm not qualified to speak at that conference. There's no way.
And they just
they
pushed
say,
you?
You can do it. They just signed me up. They asked,
Those
but
are
they
great
sort of
bosses.
had to convince me. Off the record, one of them at one point told me that I should have the confidence of a mediocre white man. And, you know, he was right. It helped me to realize that I should boost my confidence, and then what I realized is only by doing those things did I then develop the confidence that I thought you would need to have before you entered. And I found that with a number of men that I've worked with. My fiance, who's here, has also sort of repeatedly helped me figure out where I'm saying no to things because I don't have the confidence, and a man might be saying yes, and then I've pushed myself to make sure I do those anyway. I pushed myself to negotiate for salary, even though I don't want to do it and I hate it. I know that I need to.
You hear that, young ladies there, up there?
And even if it's not natural, to learn from others how to do that, because I think it's important that we have a responsibility to pay that forward.
Maybe you can give us some tips about talking about salary.
That's why we have the networking, and I'm sure she could give very good advice. Natali, you're so young, and you're very well accomplished. You have not only in the Army, but in a few positions, and now you started your own company. Do you at all feel this glass ceiling, or is the world already flat and good, and we could rest and enjoy the crowd?
Yeah, so I think the world is definitely better, and I think that I had luck to grow up in a society where women can open their own company and study in the university and go to the army. It's important to remember that there are a lot of places in the world that this is still impossible for women. So I think that the ceiling is definitely there. I think that I personally felt it, but I felt it, but it's breakable, and it's easier to break it as long as more women are breaking it, and as long as we have more role models and people to look at and see, okay, if she can do it, then I can too, and it's important. And I also think it's harder yet for women to accomplish these things. I felt that I had to came across some challenges that I don't think men need to go through, but still I'm optimistic because I think we are making progress, and this panel is the proof of that. So, yeah.
That's great. That's great. Well, I want to be sensitive to time and to the networking that is coming up, and it's going to be a hard question because Karen already asked this. But, you know, there are young people here. There are people that might be thinking about changing career. We all have kids, or most of us have kids, and we want to give advice to our, you know, I have an 18-year-old girl, and I keep on thinking, what are the messages that I want to give them before they exit to the real world? So what are the tips? We heard about passion, we heard about studies, we heard about don't give up and try it until you figure it out. My 4 words would be to dare, just dare. Don't hold back, just do it. Any other things that you think the audience here should listen about? Tips for what to do if you still have all your life ahead of you?
Yeah, so for me what helped was to be aware of the challenges and to be aware of my own vulnerabilities and to be aware of the bias and to be aware of the insecurity and the imposter syndrome. And I read some literature. Lean In of Sheryl Sandberg really helped me. And I think that being aware of what we're up against help deal with tough environments. So just know as much as you can, because knowledge is power, and it's true even in this area. So this is my tip. Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel the opposite, actually. I wasn't aware for all of the stuff. In Hebrew, we have a phrase that says, about a man or a woman, he doesn't or she doesn't see in the eyes, לא רואים בעיניים. Literally, what you understand, it's literally what it says. So I think this is the first and tip that I would like to say to you. Just don't see in the eyes. Exactly, and it doesn't matter. Just do what you want to do and believe in yourself, and it will work. Yeah.
My tip on top of these other very good advices is find yourself a mentor. It doesn't matter if you're in university, if you just graduated, or if you're in the middle of your career. There is always someone who can give you a good advice and walk some of the way with you. It doesn't have to be for a lifetime. It can be mentorship for a certain part of your career or for your life. And this is totally up to you. It's not like you're going to walk down the street and someone will ask, hey, would you like me to be your mentor? You need to find the right mentor for you that can give you what's missing right now in your life. And finding a mentor is not as hard as you might think. Go to meetups. Go and talk to people. Go and talk to your colleagues. If you feel more comfortable with a woman, then find a woman. But it doesn't have to be a woman. It can also be a man who will give you the right tips and the good ideas and how to negotiate your salary, or what should be your next challenge, or what should you focus on right now. I, along the way, found a few mentors who gave me a lot, and they were very meaningful for me for that time when they were there.
I would say recognize that in some cases, the way you process and make decisions may be sort of holding you back more than the society writ large, and the fact that you might make those decisions differently than a man would, which doesn't mean you should necessarily change how you are acting, but that you should be aware of it and make sure you're not holding yourself back. And I think also helping others recognize that. One of the sort of viral stories that came out of the Obama White House was that some very senior women in the administration were noticing that their voices were not being heard in senior staff meetings, that they were not getting credit for ideas, and they took on this amplification strategy where if what a woman said was not acknowledged and the meeting moved on, that they would then repeat the point that the woman had said previously and credit them with having made that point. And I think that's something we can all do in our different workplaces to make sure that women's voices are being heard and lifted up.
It wasn't easy, to come up with 4 more things after the distinguished panel before talked about it, so congratulations. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody, for staying with us and listening. Are you going to say a few words here? Thank you very much.